15-second warning, everybody. Y'all ready? Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting of the Simpson County Board of Education meeting. I'm Jim Flynn, Superintendent, and it's so great to have a packed house here tonight as we conduct the business of the Simpson County Schools. Also appreciate those folks that are watching on television at home, and welcome all of you all to our meeting. I'd like to make a few announcements first. I'd like to not only thank our schools for hosting so many wonderful Veterans Day programs recently, but I also want to thank all the veterans that were able to attend and the members of the public as well. And I appreciate those that were involved in putting together this tribute to honor the men and women who have served, as well as those that continue to serve to preserve our freedoms and safety. I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Lovall and the Franklin Simpson welding students for all the work they've been doing within our community. They've made quite a splash in many regards, but they've completed welding projects at Willow Hill and the Mustard Seed, and then of course more recently a very special top secret project, the space capsule that showed up in a prominent location here in Franklin and caused quite a commotion. I think that NASA was getting calls and stuff. But WBKO also ran a segment highlighting our students in the welding program, and it's really, when I think about it, that's an example of what it's all about. Kids really doing projects, real world projects that they're proud of, and exhibiting those for the public, and moving themselves along that dream that we have of life readiness for all of them. But congratulations to our welding students. Also like to give congratulations to Mr. Sam Northern. He's our library media specialist at Simpson Elementary for being one of 10 educators from the entire United States selected to travel to Bahrain with the Teachers Educating Across Cultures in Harmony Fellowship. Mr. Northern will be participating in this program from November 15th. Today he took off until the 21st, and we can't wait for him to come back and share his knowledge and experiences gained during the fellowship with our students and all of us, and so wish him safe travels. Also, shout out to Simpson Elementary, recognized as a Kentucky Green and Healthy School. Kentucky Green and Healthy School is a project-based program that uses the entire school building and grounds as a learning laboratory for students. And Simpson Elementary's STLP team led the initiative and will continue the project throughout this school year. So, way to go, Simpson Elementary. Also, I want to congratulate our Wildcat football team and coaches for winning the district championship for third year in a row, and wish them the best of luck in their journey back to the state championship. So we hope we'll also make that the third year in a row. And I'd like to also give a shout out to the band, our cheerleaders and dance teams for being there every Friday night, rain or shine, and of course all of the Wildcat faithful fans as well. Good luck to them tomorrow night as they take on Madisonville North Hopkins at 7:30 here, and our last home game of the year, and hope they can bring home that regional championship for the third straight year as well. And for the second straight year, the Franklin Simpson High School marching band went to the state semifinals and finished 9th overall in the state. So we want to give a shout out to Mr. Nash and all of the Franklin Simpson High School band members. We had a great fall sports season. Boys and girls soccer and volleyball both made it to the regional tournaments, and then our girls cross country team made it to state for the third straight year. So we're proud of all of our students, regardless if it's a sport or academic related competition. One thing I'm so proud of is our students always work hard and compete with pride, team spirit, and sportsmanship. I want to give a few more shout outs. The Franklin Simpson Middle School, some of them probably here tonight in the audience that participated in the KYA, Kentucky Youth Assembly recently. Our group received many awards overall, and we're proud that Conley Wilson was elected as the 2019 KYA governor. And we also had some other award recipients. Lanaya Brown was the outstanding delegate. Hayden Satterley, the outstanding speaker. Also understand he had the best sport coat. If you saw it, it was blue with white stars on it. I don't know where he got that thing, but he was certainly standing out, not only as a speaker, but in his attire. McKenna Delk was the outstanding doorkeeper. And then Zoe Roberts, Reese Thurman, Hayden Satterley, and Cody Alexander got their bill passed to law. So congratulations to our Franklin Simpson Middle School KYA. They also were named the outstanding delegation at KYA, so good job. Our Franklin Simpson High School cheer team qualified for the UCA National High School Cheerleading Competition to be held this February in Orlando at Walt Disney World. So way to go and good luck at Nationals. Trey Bass and Jack Randolph were named to the Bluegrass All-Star football team. So congratulations, Trey and Jack. And then Riley Spears was named to the 4th Region Volleyball All-Tournament team. And then also want to shout out to Dalton Five-Ash and Chase Wilson for making all region, and also they qualified for state. And then I want to also acknowledge that Dr. Savannah Denning successfully defended her dissertation, and she's one of 2 teachers receiving the Simpson County Board of Education doctoral scholarship, and she is now duly earned her status as a doctor. So when you see Dr. Denning, tell her congratulations. And then I'd also like to acknowledge a couple of our Franklin Simpson family that are battling some serious health conditions. First, one of our teachers at Lincoln Elementary, Tiffany Barnes Gray, and then one of our seniors at Franklin Simpson High School, Hunter Owens. They're both going through some health challenges and could use our positive thoughts and energy. So if you'll join me in a moment of silence on their behalf, and we're going to lift them up. Thank you. Want to remind you that we'll be closed next week, the 21st through the 23rd, in observance of Thanksgiving holiday. We have so much to be thankful for, so enjoy that time with family and friends, and take it as a time to spread joy and find those things in life that are most important that we are thankful for. Also, just around the corner is our winter break to celebrate the Christmas and New Year holidays, and that'll be December 17th through January 1st. And we want to wish everyone a happy and safe holiday season. At this time, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Webster to get us started. Oh, yes. Oh, and speaking of the doctoral scholarship, we also need to give a shout out to Jennifer Emberton. She's defending, what, 2 weeks, Miss Emberton? And I know she's going to be successful, and so we'll be giving her a shout out soon, but good luck in your defense. But we had a drawing at the beginning of the year for the doctoral scholarship, and Leah Wood, one of our educators at Franklin Simpson High School, won the doctoral scholarship. We have our second one open, and I've got 2 names of qualified candidates in here. So, Mr. Webster, you're going to do our honors as our chair? All right, so we'll move it down to Mr. Webster Drew for that opening day as our chair. So our vice chair in there.
This one spoke to me.
All right.
Sam Northern.
Sam Northern. He's in Bahrain, so congratulations, Mr. Northern. But yeah, so well, let's say a round of applause.
I'd like to welcome all of you on behalf of the board. I think in the 12 years I've been on this board, I've never seen this many students in this room at one time. It's a great showing on your behalf, and we're always proud to have you with us. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and the first order of business is to approve the agenda.
Motion. Second.
Second by Jennifer. Any changes to the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The next item is the presentation of teaching and learning from the Franklin Simpson Middle School.
We have our principal, Mr. Grover, and lots of his teammates here, so looking forward to this.
All right, well, my name is Jackson Grover. I'm a very proud principal of Franklin Simpson Middle School. We've got a lot of great things that are going on in that building, so if the number of students that are here today is any indication of the things that are going on and the leadership that's being developed there, I think we're headed in a great direction. I'm looking forward to watching them present. They're very enthusiastic. We've got three things that we're going to be presenting for you today. We've got Mr. Staggs and Mr. Graves. Their group is going to be presenting their RoboCats. That's the demonstration here at the table. We've got Ms. Emberton and her STLP group. We also have two young men who attended the KYA conference that we talked about earlier here in the beginning. I'd like for them to be talking about their experiences there, because I will say that as a principal, it's probably one of the best trips that I have personally been on and experienced, and I think what the kids were able to get out of that was amazing. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Cody Alexander and Mr. Reese Thurman to come up to the front. They're going to talk to you a little bit about their KYA experience.
So, while attending KYA, we got to present laws or fixes for Kentucky's problems that we want to implement into Kentucky. We got to present these to some of the top students in Kentucky. At KYA, we got to go to the Capitol and speak about the bills that we were representing and whether they should be passed or not. KYA is a good way for kids to get to speak their mind and become better at talking to groups of people. KYA helped me to be more confident when talking to people, and was a great way for me to meet people and share ideas. Our delegation, a body of delegates or representatives, did really great this year. 4 out of the 6 bills we represented in general passed at least one chamber.
Our bill had passed the House and the Senate. This is the certificate that we got.
Okay.
And our bill was an act relating to extending the unexcused absences to unexcused military absences to 5 days. Because right now, before our bill passed, it was 1 unexcused absences. And we wanted to up it to 5, because if your military family member had been stationed in a faraway, like in California, you would have time to go see them and spend time with them, and then have time to come back.
And then we also have this board, which we did for KYA, and got to represent the first day of KYA.
Every bill often wrote
Had a trouble.
any question.
Do you have someone in your family in the military?
Yes, my sister, my stepbrother, my stepsister, and my
First hand.
All right, well, good job, guys.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Next, we're going to go ahead and with Ms. Emberton and her STLP group, and they're going to be presenting on, I think what they're going to be presenting on at their next conference.
Thank you all for letting us come here tonight and present. I'm Ms. Simpson, and I have 2 groups of students. The first group is going to present over their presentation, TED Talks. You guys will please come to the front. Try to get Daniel.
Greetings. Tonight we will be explaining to you what our STLP group project is.
Our group project aims to give students their space and time to pursue their passions and to support them in presenting those ideas in the form of short TED-like talks.
TED Talks are short videos that allow students to explain how they feel.
The program is called TED Short Talks, and our mission is to celebrate the best ideas of young people in school.
Our project is about creating opportunities for students, teachers, and community members to share their passions, ideas, and experiences and hopes to help others. In the process, we will work on important skills such as storytelling, best practices for camera, lighting and sound, how to create great visuals, and presenting the great ideas.
By the end of the year, we hope to have filmed a series of student, teacher, and community presentations ready to upload to the school's YouTube channel.
My TED Talk short talk will be about Fortnite. I think that Fortnite can help people in the real world by being able to communicate with others.
My TED Talk will be about helping the environment. I am very passionate about this because so many people do not recycle. This is not good for the environment.
My TED Talk would be about how we need more technology experts to walk around in a certain school so if we had a technology problem, we would have an expert in the building.
My TED Talk, Small Talk, would be about sports. The reason why I chose this is because people would have more activity in life.
My TED Talks would be about how important it is for students to achieve good grades. It may not seem very important to students now to get good grades, but in their future, when they graduate, they'll get money for college.
My TED Talks will be about self-appreciation. I choose this because achieving goals in life is a promotion, and I want to help people accept that.
Do you all have any questions?
Right. That was
Look
quite
forward to
impressive. I
seeing
look
it.
forward to hearing your TED Talks, or seeing them, I guess, on YouTube. Right? So, all right, good job.
Hearing them talk about their passion really takes us on. The next group is presenting over whatever it takes. So, that's one up here. I wish we had the music playing.
Okay, my name is Matthew Warren.
I'm Belle Phillips.
I'm Brianna Posey.
I'm Hannah Offer from Danielsville. Our project is about building school culture, whatever it takes. If you don't know what school culture is a set of beliefs, values, and traditions we share. When all these things work together, it promotes the school culture, which in turn helps education.
The goal of this project is to encourage students in doing whatever it takes for the FSMS. This is our new school motto and a drive for success.
Our vision is for everyone to feel like they have a part to play at FSMS. This part means doing the necessary, studying, practicing, and to draw to success.
We are promoting that FSMS students are willing to do what they need to be able to achieve their goal in school. In other words, they are willing to do whatever it takes.
All right. Good
Thank you, Jessica.
job. You.
Like she said, you can see the passion in these kids, and that's one of the things that I really enjoyed as the middle school principal. It's just different coming from the high school when you see this particular age group and their eyes light up and how they are when they're able to present about something that they're passionate about. I really like that. All right, at this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Staggs and Mr. Graves to come up, and they're going to introduce their Rebel cast members and have a little demonstration.
All right, so I'm Matt Staggs, and I teach computer science at the middle school. And today we're here with our two robotics teams. They are going to, one of the teams is going to compete this Saturday, at Carmel and Trace Elementary School. And then the other team is going to compete in 2 weeks at Owensboro Community College. And so at our competitions, They're judged on three things. They're judged on how well that their robot can perform the tasks on the board. They're judged on how well they work together as a team and how they show professionalism during the competition. And then the last thing that they'll be judged on is their project. They had to do a research project based on this year's theme, which this year's theme I'm super excited about is space. And so I'm going to have the blue team come up really quick, and you're going to talk about your project.
So our project is a board game that will help astronauts with doing their daily tasks in space, make them fun. So we have two different types of cards, well, three. One is a pink card, and it'll help them do rewards that they like. So watch TV, do something you enjoy. And then the purple cards will do daily tasks that they need to do, like clean up something, do emergency procedures. But it's really, the board game is just something that'll help astronauts get their mind off of, isolation and just try to get more social, mental, and physical issues that they all do just to help.
Also, our game is based off of Candyland and Shoots and Ladders. We took the big inspiration from them to make our games really fun.
I will say that during the planning phase of all this, we watched a YouTube video by a lady named Simone Gertz. She's a YouTuber who does a lot of science and really weird things. But she actually locked herself in her bathroom for 48 hours to see what it was like to be isolated, see what it'd be like to be isolated in space. And so the kids thought it'd be really fun to do that. And so we kind of softened it up a little bit, and we did that experiment. Skylar here put herself in her bathroom for 24 hours over fall break. Do you want to tell them just a little bit about that, what it was like?
Yeah, well, if you can imagine being locked up in a bathroom for 24 hours, it's not fun at all. It was like I'm used to having a lot of people around me and being interactive, but while I was in the bathroom, it's you can't do nothing. There's not enough space to do anything. You can't move, and you're bored for practically 24 hours. And you can only sleep for 8 hours. That's about the time astronauts get.
So the things that she learned from her experiment, they kind of got together and tried to think of how could they make that a more enjoyable experience. And so they decided to come up with a board game.
Okay.
So where is this board game?
It's not finished yet.
Oh.
It's in the
Almost
process.
ready.
Well, when you all get it done, you'll have to bring it over and show it to us.
What's the name of the board game?
Gaming in space. I mean, gaming through space.
Yeah.
Game through space.
Because the whole premise is that they're on a long travel to Mars or out of the solar system, so they're through it. All right.
Good
So
luck.
thank you, blue team. Red team's going to come up and briefly talk about that, and then we want to demonstrate our robot for you guys. Alan and Aiden, you guys want to go ahead and get ready? Okay, so this is the red team. They're going to compete in a couple weeks in Owensboro. We had two separate competitions because we had some students that are on the Williamsburg trip and they wanted to still compete but also go on the trip, so we had to stagger a little bit. So someone want to talk about your project?
Okay, so we were researching on a project that would help us learn more about space. And as we were researching, we found that astronauts go through homesick and loneliness.
And we found out that the cause for that was that there was no daily scent that they get that is up in space. And so we found out that pheromones are a scent that people let off to, like, it's a certain smell to humans that are attracting. And so we thought it would be cool if we added pheromones into their shampoo, because when we were researching, we found out that it was $10,000 to ship 1 pound. So we decided that if you would put the pheromones into the shampoo, it wouldn't cost dollars to ship a separate containers.
Okay, and in our group, me and one other person, which is on the trip right now, Victoria, we did the same thing that the blue team did, and and the isolation experiment, and we thought that that's where we got the idea of pheromones from. Pheromones, pheromones can be from most mammals, and so pheromones make you pretty much feel comfortable, and like, for example, if your dad used to work at a shop or like a gas station or something, you may the smell of gasoline or something may make you may like that smell and make you feel comfortable.
Thank you, guys. So, now we're going to do a very brief demonstration of a few missions. So just a couple missions. They're going to basically talk about what the mission involves, and then they're going to run that mission. So guys, if you don't mind just doing 2 missions, pick your favorite 2. So when they get up to the board, they have 2.5 minutes to do as much as possible during that time. And so we have made quite a few. We have how many missions? 6?
I think it's 5.
We have 6 missions, and it takes. We still have about 30 seconds left over. So we're looking pretty good. And if we advance to state, which will be in February, then we have that 30 seconds to add some more stuff in there. So if you guys don't mind showing them a mission or 2.
Okay, so this was called Hammer Time because, as you can see, it goes up there to the and it bangs down on it to make it so that's what the next one we're going to be doing, we call it Satellite, because we're going to go down here and we're going to push this thing to the orange because it gets us the most points.
And show them Red River.
Okay, so yeah, this one's called Red Rover. I don't know why.
was a little, that mission right there was a little sloppy, but, you know, I want to say that this is my 6th year doing this, and I have never been more confident going into a competition with the missions that they've done. These missions are programmed very well. They work 90–95% of the time, which is really good. So I'm really proud of these kids, and I think that we're gonna hopefully come back with a win.
Right, good luck.
You gonna run one more?
What's it supposed to do?
This one?
Yeah,
The
the
one you're
Red
getting
Rover
The
one.
Red Rover? This is supposed to knock this bar down on the craters.
It did what it was supposed to. Well, it did what it needed to get the points. It did not do it the correct way.
So what is this one getting ready to do that
This
you're?
is about to come up, and then this right here will come into here, and then keep it in there.
It's called
And then
pie hole.
this one.
I can see why.
They're putting the pie in the hole, so. Try that one again.
There you go.
So we're gonna try this again. You guys can help?
Well, good luck to you all in your competitions.
Thank you all. Very impressive.
It's almost like.
Thanks for coming.
All the building, all the connection, all the pieces. It's fascinating.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck.
Mr. Staggs.
Mr. Staggs, were you a Lego king when you were little?
You know what? Actually, no. So why would you say?
Really?
I had Lincoln Logs.
Yeah.
I had a Rector set. But I didn't have any Legos until my wife bought me a set a couple years ago.
Oh, wow.
But my cousin did, so I was pretty pissed. But I never, unfortunately, never owned it. Yeah, here. In case that's okay. You sure?
You know, my biggest thing was lining up dominoes in a pattern and knocking one over and making sure you could get all of them to fall. I thought I was the
I'll
bee's
tell you,
knees when
I played Barbies till I was in like 8th grade. Oh, I played Barbies around myself. Nobody played. We loved
I'll sign it.
What'd you play with?
Yeah.
So you were Barbies? Oh, Carson.
Are you supposed to watch the meeting?
Yes, but we got here and we went to the high school. We've been here for a while. We walked around high school trying to find it a little bit. And then a coach told us to come over here. When we got here, it was over.
Oh, we're not done.
Oh, you're not done?
No, maybe not.
Oh, okay.
We just started.
Enjoy.
Gotcha. Okay,
All right.
sounds good. Great.
All right, then when we're done,
Nice try.
when we're done, just come on up and
Okay,
I'll sign it.
sounds good. Great.
Or he'll sign it, or one of us will sign it.
Okay, next is the Franklin Simpson Middle School improvement update.
I'll admit I'm probably not as entertaining as a group of middle schoolers. But I just wanted to take you real quick, maybe about 5 or 10 minutes through what we've kind of been able to do at the middle school so far. Took over that job July 31st, and obviously was, coming from the high school, it was a good learning moment for me coming to the middle school, but things are different. And so if you want to go ahead and go to the first slide, I want to kind of show you a picture up here of what drives me. This was a picture that I took right after I took the job, because this was a listing of what the site-based council was looking for in their next principal. The reason I took this picture is because I wanted to have a reference every single time that I either communicated with staff or tried to get people on board, buy-in or collaboration. I wanted a reminder of what it was that the staff was looking for. And so the first 5 you can see, number 1 is relationship builder up there, number 2 is a strong communicator, number 3 is culture builder, number 4 is a people developer, and number 5, if you look down there, strong vision. And so those are things that I try to keep in mind, and as we've tried to improve what we're doing over at the middle school, this has been the driving factor. So real quick, when we take a look at the culture, I don't feel like the culture was bad when I took over as principal, but I thought that it could use some of the ideas that we started incorporating at the high school with Jostens Renaissance. I mean, that's Jostens Renaissance is all about developing the culture of the building, and I've had experience with that over the last 6 years through Mr. Slosher, taking our trips to the national conference and getting ideas about things to implement. So we thought we would continue that tradition at the middle school. We've created a committee that actually is, we have 2 committees actually, one guided straight towards the students and one that's guided towards the adults to try to help both of those groups feel good about coming into school every day, working hard every day, and improving the culture from both of those aspects. At that conference, that's where we came up with the idea of trying to come up with a school theme, so whatever it takes seemed to kind of catch a little bit of momentum for us. So we had the idea of coming up with painting just one of our walls. It was a real simple idea, but we wanted something that had a song to it, something that was catchy, and something that we all kind of believed in, and every single teacher seemed to buy into that. So we painted, the very front wall of our building with whatever it takes. I had a group come in one Saturday in the summer and do that. We wanted an opportunity for people in the community to come sign that, to kind of show a demonstration from their point of view that they were willing to do whatever it takes in order to help their students succeed. One of the things that I try to do as far as culture goes is try to get all of my teachers involved one way or another. I'm a very collaborative leader by nature, and so I try to do what I can in order to get every teacher involved in the decision-making process at some point. So we do that through teacher leader meetings. I have meetings I have 2 meetings per month with my teacher leaders, but I also now set up committees. We have a safety committee, we have academic committee, we have a PBIS committee, we have a Renaissance committee that serves 2 purposes, so that's actually 2 separate committees. And then we have a community relations committee. And so those committees meet twice a month as well, and the purpose of those is to try to get every single teacher that I have involved in some capacity with something that I feel like is a need for our school. And we've met now twice in those committees. Some really good ideas are starting to come out of those committees. For example, if you walk into our building now, you're going to see 4 boxes and a bunch of cards for students to fill out. One of the ideas that we got from Ms. Smith at my faculty meetings is that I hand out a card to everybody in our faculty meeting, and the expectation is they write something that they want someone to hear, or something that they want to say nice to somebody, and that gets put in a basket, and then those cards get called out, and whoever wrote something nice gets a prize. But then, the power is all of the people getting something that someone has said about them. And so we wanted to try to extend that to the school body. And so we have a bunch of cards out there. We have 4 boxes, one for 6th grade, one for 7th grade, one for 8th grade, and one for the rest of the staffity, which would be bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians, administration, just whoever. And the idea is for students to fill out those cards at the end of every month. We pull out one from each box, and the student who wrote the note is going to win a prize, and of course the teacher who gets recognized, they're going to have some recognition there. So we're trying to do things like that to get people excited about, you know, coming to school and working hard, and things seem to be going well. One of the other things that we're trying to do with culture is bridge the gap between administration and teachers. So one thing that we're going to be starting, I believe, probably in December, is an admin shadowing program where I'm going to invite, I've already invited, I got a list of about 10 teachers that are wanting to do this, where they follow me around for a day and they kind of see the administrative side of things. What we're trying to do is develop a little bit of capacity with those who might be interested in leadership roles in the future, but also those are just who are kind of interested in seeing how things kind of go behind the scenes. What we're trying to do is bridge the gap between administration and teachers, because sometimes it's hard for administration to see what goes on in the classroom every single day from their point of view, and vice versa. So we're trying to bridge that gap, and I've got a lot of teachers that are interested in that, and that's pretty exciting. One of the other things that we've started to do is we've come up with an award to give teachers every month. You might have seen this on Twitter, but it's the Whatever It Takes Award. It's voted on by the teachers. The teachers call it the Grover Award. Obviously, I was just fortunate enough to have a Grover doll, and so we thought that it would be kind of a neat thing for teachers to have. We give them a $25 gift card. We give them that frame. We give them the Grover doll, but there's an expectation with that. So we've given it away to 2 teachers so far for their dedication to do whatever it takes. And the expectation is that they add something to the Grover doll that represents their core values. And so Ms. McCutcheon was the winner of it for the first month, and you can see in that middle picture what she did is she added a heart. She sewed a heart on there. It represents the heart of a wildcat. We thought that was pretty neat. Next month it was passed on to Mr. Matney, and we're still waiting to see what him and his group's going to do. So those are types of things that we're trying to do to improve the culture. I feel like we're succeeding in that regard. I have a general sense that teachers are pretty happy to be working at the middle school, and the kids are really showing signs that they're really excited to learn. So we're excited about how things are going. The other thing that was big on the teachers list was communication. I feel like this was probably something that was more of a strength of mine coming in. I always feel like it's important for me to be communicating the whys of what we're doing. And so very early on, when I took over the principal job in July, I started kind of sharing my philosophies about how I felt like the building should run. I was emailing some fairly long emails, but giving a pretty good explanation of the philosophies of where I wanted the building to go. I always feel like that's important. I don't want teachers to just do things. I want them to buy into what we're doing. And so I sent out weekly emails that kind of explain things for the week, that have small wins included in every single one, so we always have goals for every single week, and it helps us all be on the same page. I've got probably one of the best social media queens in the district with Ms. McCutcheon, who helps put everything out on social media, so we're really trying to make sure that the community has a great sense of the things that are going on and what we're trying to accomplish. If you take a look up there, we're starting a newsletter using the website S'more, and Eric Wood is actually in charge of that. This comes through our Community Relations Committee. That's something that we haven't had, in a couple years, and so we're trying to do an electronic newsletter. That's very similar to what it would look like. We're going to be emailing that link out to all of the community members, and then we're going to be updating it every week. And so it's going to be a weekly newsletter of all the things that are going on at the middle school, and that's just another way we're trying to keep the community informed of what's going on. Discipline was always an issue that I had heard going over there. And I'll just be honest with you and say that, coming from the high school, I had one sense of how the discipline structure should look. But I will also admit that middle school kids are different. In a good way. I mean, every group, every age group has their own set of challenges, but the middle school kids, I felt, if I'm just being honest with you, the way that I was used to communicating to kids had to change. I'm still learning necessarily really how to do that with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, but I think the core of what we do was still the same as far as good practice with discipline. And so one of the first things that we did is take a look at the discipline matrix when we first came on board. We revamped the matrix so that it made sense, the consequences made sense, We looked at a unified structure for what we call minor offenses because we wanted to make sure that our school was on the same page with things that weren't necessarily major write-ups, but we also thought it was important for things that are little to handle in our own classroom, that was kind of a unified structure across the entire school so that everyone was on the same page. We have a PASS program that I would showcase to the entire state if I could, with Mr. Randolph and Mr. Kalis McCullen. They do a fantastic job with some of our kids that have some really strong behavioral needs. They have an extremely tough job. And so we kind of sat down at the beginning of the year, clarified expectations on how to handle some of those really tough situations. Because let's just be honest, sometimes when teachers have kids that are not being successful in their class behaviorally, they kind of expect certain things to happen. And therefore they have a tough job because they're dealing not only with the discipline matrix and those, but they're dealing with kids that have so many outside factors that affect how they behave in school. And they've become experts in really dealing with those types of kids and helping settle them down. They do a tremendous job with that. I feel like at some point in time I would love for them to come in and present what they do because I feel like they deserve that opportunity. And if you ever get a chance to come over to the middle school to kind of watch what they do, our PASS program does, I would love for you to experience that because those kids are very lucky to have the two gentlemen that we have working with them. Good, just good practice with walkthroughs and making sure that we're visible, making sure that the kids see the administrators walking around constantly, and then we have these Renaissance rallies that are every quarter. As far as trying to get kids to do the right thing and kids to have good behavior, we have a Renaissance rally every single quarter. So we've had one at the end of the first quarter. We were actually able to give away $1,000 worth of gift cards. So we were rewarding attendance, we were rewarding good behavior, and we were rewarding academics. And at the same time, we were playing games and having fun. We were recognizing different groups of kids, getting people to cheer for each other. All that helps with the culture, but all of it kind of just promotes, you do what you're supposed to be doing in school, and we're going to reward you for that. So we're very lucky to have that. And then finally, just getting to some basic academic areas because, as the principal, my main focus, my main job is as an instructional leader. We just wanted to get back to the basics of things that were good practice, turning in weekly overviews that you would see at any other school in the district, making sure that we got those in a timely manner, having a way to monitor those to make sure that everyone's doing it. Like I said, doing continual walkthroughs and making sure that we were using that data in order to make good decisions. Revamping our PLC structure. This is really a focus not only for this year, but going into next year. This year we have team planning, and so what that basically means is you have four teachers on a team and they have planning together. But in each grade we have 2 teams, and so algebra or math, for example, on one team doesn't necessarily have the same planning as the math teacher on the other team. And what we're trying to do instructionally, we feel like what we might want to do for next year is go to a content planning. We've had that in the past. We've kind of fluctuated between team planning and content planning, but I think most of the administrative crew and my team leaders have kind of decided that if we want to move this school to the next level, we want our content teachers being able to have access to each other every single day. And so we're going to probably move to content planning next year. One last thing that I'll kind of mention before we just talk real briefly about scores is Wildcat and Flex Time. I'm really proud that we have this unique schedule that includes a Wildcat time and a Flex Time. And just briefly, Wildcat allows us to group our GT kids together, and they go through a rotation, math, science, social studies, and English language arts. And as they go through that cycle, other students go through that same cycle, but it allows our GT kids to kind of get some enrichment, but it also gives every single kid in our building an opportunity to receive an extra 9 weeks with project-based instruction in math, science, social studies, and English. And so that's a really awesome structure that we have. But then we also have a flex period at the end of the day that allows our students to get homework done. It allows us to use data to pull kids out into different groups to work on remediation and interventions based on how they do on common assessments. And so those 2 things together I think are pretty powerful. We're working to make sure those things are running as efficiently as possible. Last year, that Wildcat time was not graded, so one of the things we wanted to do to make sure that kids kind of understood how important that instructional time was is that's a graded time now. So we're really proud of those two things. And then, you know, we're offering after-school help. We're offering help during flex time for kids who just might need a little bit of extra help in any of those content areas. So my teams have been really good about coming up with their own little structure for after-school help, but that's available to every single student Tuesdays and Thursdays after school. And then finally, just based on test scores, I know you guys have probably heard test scores from every school, and you're probably sick of hearing about test scores, but I'll just go ahead and say that our main focus is in 7th grade science. We are actually targeting science and English language arts in 7th grade as well. These are the 3 main focus areas for us. So we've got a bunch of different things in place that we're going to try to do that. IXL is one program that's been successful in some of the other areas, so we're going to go to IXL, allows science to be able to dabble in some of that to see if that works. We're also going to be utilizing that Wildcat rotation in 7th grade. We're going to be giving students two 9 weeks worth of science. Our rotation right now, we're going to take the social studies group out of that rotation. We're going to give kids 2 9 weeks of science to kind of help with that. Last thing I'll say is, if you want to flip one more slide, is we're giving the case assessment and the STAR assessments as well. The STAR assessment kind of just measures a student's broad overall knowledge of a subject, whereas the case assessment, which we're giving 3 times a year this year, focuses on the standards that they should have been learning this year. So we've been able to administer the case assessment 1 time this year so far, and what that's done is allowed us to kind of compare teacher to teacher, you know, how has this group of students done compared to this group of students, and now that's giving us some very good discussion points in our planning period meetings about, hey, what worked for this teacher, what can we try with this particular group, what are some gaps that we've identified, and probably most importantly, what are some interventions now that we can do so that these particular students can make up what they were deficient with. And we've got a good structure, like I said, with our flex time in order to be able to handle that part of it. I love what I do, guys, so if there's any questions that you have.
I was just going to
for me,
ask you, do you like your new job?
I
But
do.
I think we know.
I think I have a few extra gray hairs, that's what I was told, but that comes with the territory. I'm okay with that.
You're doing great.
Like the passion, like the work, so keep it up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the visitors' comments. Superintendent staff reports.
Okay, keep the board and the community up to date. We have the following reports. We have our attendance report, ADA reports. Mr. Kilbur's here if you have any questions. We also have our personnel report, then our out-of-district student trips, including our basketball schedules, and our out-of-district staff and administrative travel reports. We have our series of financial reports with daycare, food service, monthly district athletics reports, monthly vendor report, reconciliation reports, or monthly school reconciliations, and construction reconciliation, and our visa charge report. And old man Winter's raising his head early, but we do have a review of our emergency closing procedures. Remind everyone that we'll use our school messenger app to call, text, and email, and then we'll also use all of our media partners as part of our notification system. And then we have our Learning Community Day report from November 6th. Ms. Fisher's here if you have any questions. And then our needs assessment process for our financial needs. And once you all review that, we'll be sending this out to all of our principals and division leads who are responsible for various budgets to begin that process. So, any questions on any reports? All right.
I don't have
motion.
Next is the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Second by Nancy. Any discussion on any of these items? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is the action items, and the first is a request to approve the School Facility Construction Commission Ketchum offer of assistance.
Motion.
Motion by Nancy, second by Jennifer. Discussion on this item.
Well, as you all know, that annually we usually get 2, sometimes 3 offers of assistance. The first offer requires board action. We budgeted for the match that's required, but basically we'll chip in our money. The state's going to chip in their money to help us with our technology needs. So we're asking you to approve this offer.
Question, comment?
Yay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next is a request to approve continuation of 2 annual scholarships for Franklin Simpson High School graduates to be funded by board members per diems.
Motion.
Motion by Nancy, second by Jennifer. This is a scholarship, 2 scholarships that we started a couple of years ago, and we got a new board member, so we have to go back and reapprove it because she didn't approve the first one. So that's why it was brought back up, and I've already talked to Tara about it, so is there any other discussion on the scholarship? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is a request to approve emergency certification of Caitlin Crawford for Lincoln Elementary School 4th grade teacher.
Motion.
Motion by Heidi, second by Jennifer. Discussion on this item.
I think you have a memo from Dr. McIntosh. She has an upcoming praxis test that she's got to take to gain her full certification, but until then, we'll just need the board to approve emergency certification for her until she gets that practice done.
Questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is a request to approve the school psychologist service contract for special programs department.
Motion.
Second.
Heidi, second by Nancy. Discussion on this item.
Well, you have the memo request for this proposed contract. One of our school psychologists actually had a successful procedure today, but it's going to be out recovering for a bit. And just as a backup, we are proposing this contract if we need services. And Whitney Maxwell's here if you have any questions.
Melissa worked really hard to try to get her cases ahead of time, but she's going to be out until Christmas. She's had hip replacement or be until January. But we do have several students that have been referred that we're going to be on a timeline that we could potentially have to have someone come in. So it's just, she's worked hard to do all of her cases ahead of time, but like I said, there are some that she just couldn't do. We've had a referral or something that we may have to have extra help on. So it wouldn't be much, but just within that lapse of time.
Questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is a request to approve shortened school day for student at Franklin Simpson Middle School.
Motion.
Motion by Nancy, second by Jennifer. Discussion on this item.
Well, you have a copy of the request in your materials. We have a student whose situation benefit them to have a shortened day, and we just need board approval for that. Ms. Maxwell can answer if you have additional questions.
Questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is a request to approve the revised job description for 1.311 technical integration specialist.
Motion.
Motion by Heidi,
Second.
second by Nancy. Discussion on this item.
You have a copy of the revised job description. Essentially, you can see the rationale that Ms. Smith gave the KDE folks that are overseeing Title II, which is teacher quality, kind of had some recommendations regarding a little bit of the language that kind of referenced students, and so we just made some very minor revisions, though, just to clarify that. So, any questions? Ms. Smith's here.
One note on this, on the original, it looked like it was originally done in December 11th of '97. It was revised in February of '98, and it was revised again in 2015, but it wasn't revised on the actual job description. And this one's going to be 2018, so it looks like there needs to be 2 revisions put on this job description.
Yeah, we'll get that taken care of. I've talked with Dr. McIntosh, and we've got a process that we're going to implement that'll ensure kind of the routing of this work so that all of those job descriptions, because a lot of times they'll emanate from one department or agent, division head, and but then we need to make sure they kind of go through the HR piece. So we've got that worked out so that that all of those little pieces that you're highlighting will take place. Plus, Kim and I worked on a kind of a backup too that before it comes to the board meeting, she'll make sure that it's come through HR if it's like a job description or contract or something like that. So.
Questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is the request to approve the proposal and contract for curriculum consultant in social studies.
Motion.
Nancy, second by Jennifer. Discussion on this item.
You have the materials kind of back up the proposal, and kind of one of those things that if we have a former employee that comes back and does work, kind of the way the rules are, we have to have an actual little contract to pay them as opposed to maybe paying them on a W-9. And so our CFO's watchful eyes keeping us compliant with that, and so we're asking you to ratify this little contract, for that work. Dr. Janet Kirshner has come and worked some with our teachers, really as a consultant, and but we need the contract just so that we can dot our I's and cross our T's, and it's all transparent and according to the guidelines. So,
has anybody looked into that suggestion that we talked about of activating some of our retired teachers as mentors?
I've actually mentioned that actually to several retired teachers. So
were they interested, or
well,
want to stay retired?
A lot of them like having flexibility, but they, a good number of them come in and out. It's just a matter of finding the ones that would want to, on a regular basis, do those kinds of things. But I think we just kind of keep on looking at that resource. I think it's a great idea. Just the challenges. They're retired, and they, sometimes they have other ideas what they want to do with their time now, and they've earned that. But we'll keep shaking the bushes on it. It's certainly a great resource, and we have a lot of retirees doing a lot of different things. So
that's also why the proposal said that she was willing to mentor some of those new teachers as well, because Lincoln has 6 brand new, and so a lot of those were teaching social studies as well, and so she, at first, we can kind of pair up for the content issue of it, but she even offered to do kind of that mentoring support and guidance even outside of the content area. So she's willing to come in and model and just, again, kind of help talk them off the ledge when you get there, because sometimes it's a difficult job.
Especially for our new ones.
well, and one of her gifts in particular is coaching. She's excellent at coaching teachers. It's something she's very talented at that, and so we're lucky to, have her coming back and working with us. But we'll keep looking for some of those others. They're out. There's some out there that might want to do some things. Good idea.
Questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion.
Nancy, second. All in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
All right. Thank you all.
So we usually
That's Nancy, Jennifer.
Thank you, Simpson. Should we sign anything?
well, sign out. And if you
it turns off.
if you choose to leave it,
You have to make them cancel hard with
like
that.
it sometimes it's
Okay.
if you just
And then I do